All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of some chatting here with some great professionals in the world of sports performance. This go around, we have Peter Judge. He is an expert in the field of mental performance. He also runs a company and a website called the Performance Zone, where he's helping individuals just achieve their goals. And I'm going to let him dive a little bit more about his background and what he does. So Peter, just to get us started, kind of what inspired you to become in this field of mental performance as a mental performance coach?
Yeah, it's pretty funny you say that, man. I've always been. I was in strength and conditioning probably for many years, for about 6 or 8 years before I even kind of decided to go on mental performance and just kind of cut it off. I was a coach in Australia for a while, then I moved to UK. I was there for 7 years, then moved to Dubai. So that's where I'm currently. So I was a S&C coach and personal trainer for, on and off. So, it all started probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I had massive issues, man. Probably personally, coming out of college and stuff, I just never, it will kind of put me onto the mental performance. I never kind of, got into what I really wanted to do as succeeding in results. Like the praise and stuff I was getting while I was in college, it was all, skill based and talented, great game, great this, great that. And then as soon as I left college, I just couldn't replicate anything that I was producing. I didn't know why I wasn't succeeding where I wanted to. And I just couldn't find the answer. The only answer I was ever getting from people were, either you're talented, but you should just learn to do this or learn to do that. But no one actually told me how to learn to do it. You know what I mean? So the difference between learning how to do something and getting told it, there was no connection between what I wanted and where I was, and I didn't know where to find it. So it led me kind of astray, and I kind of just floated around for a good 10 years. I was coaching just here and there, just kind of making my way, and then kind of discovered NLP and a coach, a friend of mine in Oz. She kind of put me onto her mentor, and kind of went from there. Kind of built that. I met a guy called Brian Kane, who he's an NPM coach, and where I got certified from. He's living up in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. So he works with like UFC, NFC, NFL players, guys he's got players to the draft. He works a lot with athletic directors and stuff like that. So he kind of really gave me the what would you call foundations, or the format, like how to actually, like a criteria, if you will. Like he's been like, he was an athletic director himself, and he was also looking for the way. But see, he went to like sports psychology and stuff like that. But sports psychology is a good way to learn why we do things, but whether we don't really use that in a skill based. There's no tangible things really to learn from that. There's guys I've known who've done degrees in psychology, but come out of that degree and go, well, how do I make this player better? How do I actually turn the stuff I've learned on my degree that I've been learning to actually, practical ways to teach it? It just doesn't happen. So there was no connection. It was like mental performance was like all in the clouds, and no one knew how to kind of grow it up. So it was like a big base, and his kind of foundations, I highly recommend. If anyone wants to really educate themselves, get onto Brian Kane. So Brian Kane is a massive friend of mine, big mentor, and I still follow him, good friends. So and that's how I kind of got into it, man. So it's personal experiences just kind of helped me kind of move along, and I needed a way to fix myself and kind of do that. So in the best way of things, it's skill based. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm kind of rambling on about
No,
it's a long history, man. It's a long history.
No, it makes total sense. Everything's is a skill, and then that skill you make it a habit. So kind of touching on that, on your website here, you have some 10 pillars that you mainly towards success or changing that mindset. So can we maybe just touch on those 10 pillars a little bit, if you want to go into them each individually?
And say, those 10 pillars are, if you will, look at them in like skills, 10 skills of mental performance, like the mastery, that kind of format is from Brian. Brian told me this stuff, like you can kind of switch and change and things like that, but there are 10 pillars mainly that kind of fit into that are teachable. So you could probably use it as like a criteria almost. So you can do like 1, learn elite mindset, 2, focus awareness, 3, time management and organization, 4, you got a process over outcome, you got and then you go up to leadership and culture are like 9 and 10. So there's different stages. So there's 10 to you can kind of feed off and kind of pick and choose, but usually you go from 1. So start at the elite mindset, so no one can kind of appreciate or do anything. You don't have the ability to kind of see where they are. So that's like the awareness. You can't change something that you can't see. Okay. So that's where you got to start. So I think those 10 pillars are really crucial, and it's such an easy way. I think people kind of mix mental performance with hocus pocus stuff or stuff that's kind of in the clouds. So it's all kind of floating up their heads, but it is super simple stuff. Like it's not rocket science at all, is it? So it's basically just really easy, simple, applicable stuff that you can kind of, you can actionable do. Right. Things with time management, it's all kind of setting yourself up, routines and habits. It's all tangible things that you can make action on. Yeah. That's mental performance, right? And people really confuse it, and it get lost in clouds with people. So I think you got to start the simple stuff.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. People are trying to look for the quickest way to do things, and oftentimes these things, aren't quick. They take time to develop. It's not going to be you're going to wake up one day and you're going to look like DK Metcalf the other day in the NFL running down somebody 90 yards at 22 miles an hour. You're not going to just be that one day. You have to set your goals, set your standards, and work towards it. I think people just wake up expecting that because they did one thing right. Within those pillars, are there certain ones that your clients tend to struggle with the most, more than others?
Yeah, that it would be number one.
Number one.
People have a massive issue with that first hurdle, and like what most people, it's the start that stops most people. That kind of initial reality of that mindset of switching from the other to the next is, it's like, the average mindset is like something that they kind of go, they base their, everything they do on their feelings, and they look towards talent rather than looking towards, effort. So it's a 2 different kind of mentality. You either go one way or go the other. You lean into challenges or you lean out of challenges. Something's too hard, you go on to the next thing, or you avoid it. The other guy, elite athletes and champions don't go, I won't do it next time. I'll change my route. People, persistence is something that's kind of is stuck with people that are mentally tough. You look at like Navy SEALs and guys and special forces and stuff. They don't go, the mission is too hard. We'll move on. We'll leave that mission. You know what I mean? Right. It's the mentality that these guys at the highest order, like Navy SEALs are probably they're probably the most elite, right, in right. mental performance. You look at the way these guys do it, and it's persistence. They'll find a strategy of how to do it. It's again and again. It's repeated. It's repeated. Test, and then learn. If they don't learn it, then they must go back and see what they learn. Change. The mental performance there is no shortcuts. I think people really get stuck on trying to find what's the quick fix. What's the 3-step thing right. that's going to get me to being in the NFL? Like, those guys, Kirk Cousins, he has his time management, he's got 15-minute blocks, and if you look in his diary, or if you go to business, Warren Buffett, he was trading at 11 years old. No. He had 20 years on people. That's how if you take that 20 years off, he would be no better than the guy who's starting out of college now. Right. It's the fact that he started early and he had everything in place. That's the difference. People kind of miss these simple things. It's the same with elite athletes. You don't see guys in the NFL, they persistently do everything every day. there is a standard of excellence that they maintain. It's just a standard, you know.
Right.
Like it's you look at Tom Brady, you know, his standard of excellence, his mentality was that elite mindset. He already had that awareness. He's like, right, I'm stick to his process, and then he got where he wants. He didn't go, right, people were telling me I'm slow. People were telling me I'm you know, I had the worst draft, I had the worst pick. I didn't look at my, you know, my draft number. He just kept on what his process was.
Yeah.
You know, that's his character.
Yeah.
I think mental performance builds character. And if you don't have that character in line with what you want to do, you're not going to succeed. Like, it's a fundamental thing that you must have.
Right. So how do you kind of guide people to help establish that mindset? What are some of the things? I mean, you kind of talked about time management, like small goal setting. So when you're dealing with a client, how are you, or an athlete, or possibly an individual, you know, outside of athletics, like where are you getting them? How are you getting them to that step one to help them like get on that elite mindset? What are some of the things that you're working with them on?
So it's their approach, you know, like if you look at everyone approaches something. Well, let's go back actually. Let's go back. There's a simple kind of equation that Brian told me and a lot of guys, and I got this from professor at Montclair University, Dr. Rob Gilbert, who runs a success hotline. So if you call his number at his university, right, he has a 3-minute motivational, inspirational message, leaves it every day. He's done that for the past 15, 20 years, I think.
Wow.
So it's unreal. So massive resource there. You can just call him up on the number and on the answering machine. It's a 3-minute message. It's unreal. I highly recommend someone crack onto that. But it's and I've been doing it for a couple of years now, so it's unreal. I'd say if you look at the E plus R equals O. So the simple fact that if you kind of look at that equation, it's event, which is anything, sport, business, you know, your day-to-day routines, your habits, whatever, your school tests, your school prep, you know, as a college athlete, it's everything you do. Everything is an event, right? So then your response to that event is your control, nothing else. If someone look at something like an equation, that control is that response, and then whatever you do to that event ends up as a result. Either it's a negative or a positive, but the fact that is that notion that 50% of that equation is on you. So if you leave out that event, that response, how you respond is everything. So that is that's your body language. That's the things you say to yourself. That is the thing. That's the things that you let in. That's the comments that you let in. That's the information that you learn. That's the information that you don't want to learn. It's all about that response. So that approach to everything is probably the first step you want to take in a system. You can systemize that. So you can first look at that awareness. What are they actually doing? So that athlete or the guys that you coach, you go, well, the first process is you want to go, where am I now? Like, and then where do you want to get to? So when the strength and conditioning stuff in that, or the colleges, where are they now? So there are the, you know, A levels or B levels, and they want to get to like A level in like in their exams or something, right? They can map that out. So now I know what I need to do to get that A level. So it's exactly the same concept to mental performance or anything in life. You basically just find out where you are now, find out where you want to get to, and just reverse engineer it. You could do that to everything.
Yep.
And then map out what are the responses that I need to have, that enables me to get to that point that I want to get to, and what are the actions that I don't want that are going to stop me from getting that action, and then just weed them out. Eventually if you kind of journal it or map it out, so it's just like in a program, you take an analysis of how you are every day and just slowly go, right, I need to take that out, do less of that, more of this, less of that, more of this. Simple, right?
Right.
I think really people just kind of miss that simplistic kind of view of it and just complicate things like we always like most humans do, right?
Right. Yeah. You know, they'll think, okay, to get better grades, I got to study more. But when they study more, they're typically missing out on sleep or nutrition. And so like 2/3 of your equation is for nothing because, you've done one thing right, but then you've slacked on the other two things. So I think you're absolutely right. It is like, how do I get there? And like, what are those steps that I need to do?
Yeah, man, it's the age-old story. It's not quantity, it's quality.
Right.
We have quality reps rather than quantity reps.
Right.
Quantity is not going to get me that much, but quality gets me it gets me the excellence. Excellence doesn't happen by just doing a rep over and over and over and over again. You'll get there, but it's the longest route.
Right.
Why not cut it back and do a better rep? You'll get there shorter and shorter time.
Right.
Like it makes no sense. And I think kids these days have drilled into that kind of mentality. You're right. Okay. Yeah. Rep. Yeah. It's great. But what's that quality of that rep? If you're doing a terrible rep and you're repeating that terrible rep,
right,
what are you going to do? You're going to get better at doing a terrible rep.
right.
So why not cut it back, do something with excellence, and then repeat that excellence as best you can? Because then you can build up that excellence, that day. All those excellent days add up to an excellent week. And then all those excellent weeks add up to an excellent month. And then build that up.
Yep.
Weeks turn into terms turn into seasons turn into years.
Right.
Yeah. And then year. Right. I've had 3 awesome years. Right. How am I going to do that? Boom. NFL draft. Great.
Right.
Like you got to scale it back. It's so simple. People just need to kind of go, right, I need to really, what are the nuts and bolts and then put it into place. People don't put things into place, which is a big problem. They may go, I want to go there, but then they miss out the whole map to get there.
Or they fall off track real quickly because they suffer one setback.
Yeah. Like that's building resilience. But resilience is having that grit, is knowing where you are going. If you don't know where you're going and how you're going to get there, if you fall off, you're most likely not going to be able to get back on because you don't know where you don't have a map.
Yeah.
So it's you look at it from a simple way. It's a no-brainer for me, I think.
So shifting gears over here. So we have athletes that are, they're working through these pillars, doing really well, but they suffer, a setback. We have a female athlete, maybe she tears her ACL, or a baseball guy, maybe something happens to his shoulder. So how do you coach and deal with an athlete to kind of get back on track when they're struggling to return from an injury, or they've returned from an injury, but they can't get back to maybe the form in which they were prior?
I would look at, okay, well, let's have a little story. Like there's how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One bite at a time. So that process, getting back, if you have a map, if you know where you're going to go and you fall off, just get back on that process, stick to your process and continue on. It's that simple. I think people really complicate things with an answer, but if you just have a plan, a strategy, like if you look at it as like a skeleton plan, you can fall off that plan, but you've got a skeleton to get back onto. If you don't have to stick to the plan just as much, you can change it and alter it. But if there is no plan there, it's gone. Imagine a college or a university not having a timetable.
Mm-hmm.
Like classes change, right? Classes change, teachers get sick, that kind of stuff. Weather, gets snowed in, or who knows? COVID happens, can't get the class. What happens? Right, that skeleton key is still there. You still got that curriculum that you can kind of right. So we still know what to give kids to learn. That's fine. We still have a base, a foundation of what to teach them. It's the same as if you made out a plan and kind of had a little roadmap. It's the same as a school having a curriculum or a timetable. You can fall off it, but you come back on it.
Right on. Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of touched on COVID a little bit. A lot of negativity. We have a lot of athletes, whether high school or college, that can't be with their teams. They can't play their sport right now. We don't know, for us personally, when we'll be able to truly come back. How do you, what's the advice to manage this? We can't practice, sometimes we have parks closed. They can't get in skill work. Coaches are doing the best they can with trying to keep our kids going through Zoom trainings and things like that. What's the advice for our younger athletes? As adults, we're more equipped, but our younger athletes, how telling them to manage this? Any advice for them? Things that they can
I
run?
would have them write out a list. What are things that they can control right now, and what are things that they can't? Because it makes no sense to focus on things that they can't control. So make a list, and I bet my bottom dollar there'll be probably 3-4 things that they can probably work on easy. The fact that it's written down in front of them knows now they can see it. Now they go, right, now I can make an action plan and find out how to do it. So just again, reverse engineer it. What's my process of getting there? What do I need to have to obtain that skill? What can I work on right now? So if any athlete, they can go to the gym, or what can they do at home? Just piece it together. Again, build that kind of roadmap. How are they going to get there? Start with the controllables. People can't control their performance if they don't control themselves first. So first, defining that awareness, number one, find out what they can control. Number one, list it out. Super simple. People just kind of forget what to do, don't know where to go, because they go, oh, I can't do that, I can't do this. And go, that's great, but that's what you can't do. What can you do? Let's make a list of what can you do, instead of focus on things that you can't do, because you can't do it, obviously. So why make a list of the things you can't do? It's uncontrollable, right? The only thing you control is what your mind, what you do, what you eat, what you drink, and what you do physically right now in that spot, like in the moment. People just kind of forget again. They go, well, I can't do this. I can't go to school. I can't go to the library. I can't go to training. I can't go to the gym. Like, well, that's great. Stuff's going to happen like that every day. I think people have lost that ability to be resilient anyway.
Yeah.
So I think if you look at the history of this kind of pandemic and things in the universe happen every 10 years, there is a huge gap of when things never happened. Like, you think about the past 10 years, nothing has happened except social media.
Right.
Like, there's been no wars. There's no major thing globally.
Right.
We have not been affected like this at all, really, on a global scale. So I think people just need to adapt. Like, this is probably an opportunity to kind of grow as yourself as mentally. What can you work on? Your mind. You're right here. You're in the moment. You can do some research, do some courses online. Start doing these practices. Start journaling. Start finding ways to kind of where are you going wrong. Like, if someone like, for instance, a lot of my athletes, they get criticized a lot. So they answer back and they kind of say this and that and go, well, great. If you can't take criticism without actually saying anything back or taking offense to it, you hold an ego. It's as simple as that. Like, if someone can tell you something, then you can go, okay, yep, yeah, I'll take it. Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough. And even if it's not true, does it really matter to say anything back? It just voices that, okay, I'm important. Okay, Matt, I don't agree with that. Okay, that's great, but no one cares that you don't agree with it. The big question is that no one cares what you think except you.
Yeah.
There's a big realization, right? So people project their own things. If someone says they don't like something about you, it's more a case they don't like it about you because they don't like it about themselves. Like, it's a big one-on-one. I think people really need to find out like who they really are and start being comfortable being by themselves. You probably noticed that there's a huge shift now. Introverts now have more power these days because they're so comfortable being by themselves. It's fine. Whereas extroverts now are freaking out, right? They can't socialize with people. They can't go outside. They can't do this. They can't, they don't have no energy off people. Extroverts feed off people.
Right.
They can't do that. So now it's like the whole shift, that power shift that, is now introverts. They have more power these days. So what can you do to be more of an introvert then? Go find out what introverts like, start exploring. I think mental performance or any kind of personal development is about exploration, right? You can't it's about finding things out, and people really lack that because they didn't have time. It's either they're going from one test or one exam to the next. I know you guys in America have like pretty hectic schedules in college, right? And it's always like bang on. So I think this time, great, good, take advantage of it. I don't see why. There's a lot of people that always complain about this time, but how is not an opportunity to slow yourself down and start and breathe a little bit, and then really kind of go on the nuts and bolts. Like I think it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was an opportunity to kind of work on my own business, to work on my own coaching, and work on my own process, and kind of go with the toothpick and find comb it.
Yeah.
Like there is so many things we're just not looking at. But I think as an athlete in college, I would. Is it really that much of a big deal? Like, what are they actually losing? Apart from the obvious, is it really going to be that bad? Because you are in the same boat as thousands and thousands of other people.
Right. It's
not that you're the only one who's going to be missing out on selections for the next team, or everyone is in the same boat. So I think really people need to focus and stop worrying about the future and or the past, and then start thinking about where their feet are, because everything that happens in the moment, it affects everything. Nothing you do in the past affects the present, because you could make a decision but then not act on it. So regardless, it means absolutely nothing.
Right.
You could think, I'm going to do that in the future, but that's just a decision. It means absolutely nothing. So you take a story, like I'll tell you a story. If you got, let's say college, you got three students in the gym, and one decides to leave. How many students are in the gym?
Common knowledge would say two, but I know there's some sort of little twist to that.
Yeah, three.
Yeah.
The athlete just decided to move to the gym. He's decided. He never left.
Yeah.
So like people really forget, like a decision is great, but it's an attention. Attention without action is nothing. So people got to remember that it's about judgment, better judgment, decision making, better judgment, and actions. Applying that, realizing that people really don't care what you do, because all they see is themselves in the mirror. So yeah, I think people just need to slow down and realize, probably work on where they want to go to. I think it's a good example. I think it's great for people in America. Now they can slow down and they can start and go, right, where do I actually really want to go?
We try to tell our athletes, hey, we can get the call in a minute, that at least we can be back on campus training. Like, what you do today can impact tomorrow. Like if you haven't been training and getting out there, and whether it's soccer, trying to get your touches, or your fitness, or basketball, if you can't get shots up, and you've just been sitting around for 8 months, if we come back to campus, all those decisions, or their lack of decisions that you chose not to do, are going to come back and bite you.
Yeah. I mean, you think about how hard is it for you, for a college athlete? Is it for them to go back to college or practice, knowing that other kids have chosen to do things and action things and to work on themselves while school's shut? Yeah. How hard is it for them going to be if they're going to be competing against kids who are actually working on themselves, doing what they can control, while you're working on things that you can't control? Who's going to be better? The guy that works on things that he can't control, or the person who works on things that they can control? Where are the benefits? You're not going to benefit by doing things that you can't control, because there's no translation, there's no turnover, there's no transfer.
Right.
Like, you think about it. So these kids, I think, get them to working on things that they can control, because other kids will be. And if they want to be competing at the highest level, they got to be moving. So you got to think about, what are you going to do now? What can I do today to be better, rather than what can I do tomorrow? What can I do the next day? What can I do next week? It's like, what can I do right now? It's that quick snap. Like that's that championship mindset. It's those elite, those top level athletes, or even the top level academics. Like, you don't think those guys who have who are, you know, stuck out, can't do their PhDs, or in the house sitting watching Netflix there. You know, they're probably studying.
Yep.
You know, they're probably practicing writing, or doing, or congesting some sort of information. You know, feeding themselves. Still, there's so much. Internet is like a wealth of information. Even it's incredible.
Yep.
Yet we still think, okay, I'm not connected. We are the most connected we are being.
All right.
You know, ever.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
you're in Dubai, I'm in California, and here we are having a conversation.
Yeah. That's crazy, right? So I mean, anything's possible. You rip impossible out of the dictionary, it doesn't exist.
Right.
You know? So it's
I mean, that's awesome stuff, Peter. I mean, those are really all the things I wanted to touch on, and I love that all the directions that we went. I think there's some just amazing stuff that our coaches and athletes can take away from this. Any last things or remarks that you want to touch on before we wrap this up?
I think you know, it just the start that stops most people, guys. So if you can it's all about the action. Build your self-awareness, make a strategy, and act. Without action, it's useless.
Yeah.
So, you know, control our response before we control our performance, and just watch your success go, man. Like, it's incredible. Like, I mean, it's yeah, I know it's a bit of a trouble in America, and it's quite hard. You guys haven't really kind of imploded, really, from just watching it from Dubai. Like, it's I know a few athletic directors, and they're having lots of trouble kind of just figuring out what they can do with athletes, how they can kind of make up games to keep people kind of playing while they can't social distance. And it's you know, we can't do it here either. We're in like a phase 2 almost. I'm a S&C coach as well for one of the rugby clubs here, and we can't tackle yet. We can only play touch. We got to like phase 3, and then you know, that big upsurge happened. We moved back to phase 1. We can't play touch even. Can't play this.
Right.
No, we got the tackle shields out like last week for the first time this year. So, you know what I mean, it's just that process. Just keep doing it. Just do what you can, and yeah, just control what you control only. Super simple. Just simplify it.
Yep. Wow, that's awesome. And once again, Peter, I appreciate you taking the time. You know, shout out to the Performance Zone, which is you're working through, as well as all the clubs that you're helping out in Dubai. And once again, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Yeah,
man, pleasure. Great chat. Love having conversations, man. It's unreal. I mean, the world is built on conversations. We should have more.
That's right.